Hi Virgo, welcome to a Twin Flames reading for September and October 2019. I'm Raina. That's a train. Right on cue, right when I start. And so I was trying to see if it's one of those trains that they're going both directions. This is taken from a website called emeraldlotus.ca. It's a website that is dedicated to, I think it's primarily tarot. And they have, this person is generous enough to share some free spreads for people to use, but I did want to give credit to the site, so go check them out if you're interested in ideas for tarot spreads and other information that they have to offer. I actually am not going to read the explanation of Twin Flames, just because it got a little bit tedious in when I did it other times. But suffice it to say that it is something that I'm assuming that you know about if you're into this kind of thing in the first place. So I'm going to lay out the cards, and I will tell you what each position means after the fact. And if you don't see all the cards, no worries. I will hold up the cards. So sometimes people say, I couldn't see all the cards on the table. Well, so what? It doesn't matter. Sometimes, though, I could put them a little bit closer, I suppose. Well, I'm digging this lighting. I don't know if it's just this time of year. I mean, it seems like the lighting has been a lot easier to contend with. I've been kind of playing around with the settings on my camera to make it a little bit more viewable. Okay. And the last card. Okay, there we go. Alrighty then. Okay, so the first position is, this card represents your energy with this individual, which is kind of interesting. This is the Nine of Cups, because this is almost like a self-indulgent energy sometimes. And Virgo is a sign that I don't associate with that necessarily. But perhaps this person brings out that part in you that wants to enjoy life to the fullest. And, that does happen sometimes, where a person can be like typically very straight-laced and all this stuff. And then when they're with another person, I don't know about hedonistic. I mean, this card could be like that, kind of gluttony, hedonism. But definitely where you are not as anal, shall we say, about things, and you might just allow yourself to indulge. And to me, I'm sure there are a lot of people that they kind of get triggered by the word indulgence because it sounds so undisciplined. And what I'm really referring to is allowing yourself to experience pleasure unapologetically. Let's put it that way, okay? What is our purpose? I'm trying to get this sucker out of here because of my setup here. What is the purpose, our purpose, what our purpose is together in this lifetime? There, I got it out. The Three of Swords. I will just go there right away. If there's a third party, it can be showing how hurtful it can be when you are being like torn between two people, that feeling of rejection, because that's what the Three of Swords can represent, is rejection, feeling unwanted. But it can be with the Three of Swords, especially in a love reading, that there's a lover's triangle. And it's interesting because it could be the flip side, where you understand that there's no reason to fear that love is limited, because there are people who do not just have one partner, but they're not just sleeping around with anybody. They have like maybe they have two partners. And for me, I can't imagine living like that. But when I open my mind and I think about what it could possibly be explaining or teaching, I think, this idea of ownership that we tend to have with our partner, even like a wedding ring is kind of like a symbol that person is taken. And can you really take another soul embodiment? Can you take such an individual? Do you own somebody because you have a license? I was going to say a license to marry, like license to carry, a license to marry. Do you own that person if you sign on the dotted line? And these are interesting things to explore. What makes people feel unwanted and rejected? Is it because they are being cheated on, or can you be, rejected and be in a monogamous situation? The feeling, rejection comes from within. You decide what you feel and why you feel it. Nobody else is responsible for your feelings except for you. And so I really believe that when people are upset about something, they're telling themselves a story, even if it's something that is quite normal to be upset about, like your partner is cheating. If you could tell yourself that your partner cheating is not a sign of you being unlovable, that would make quite a difference. In this particular scenario, from what I understand, of course, I didn't read, the definition of twin flames, that this issue of infidelity might be fairly common. Because I have had people write to me about twin flame situations when I've referenced them online and said, my twin is with somebody else right now. And I'm thinking, well, that doesn't sound too good, but that's just part of the lesson that they have to learn. Now, they said, what is the purpose in this lifetime? So maybe I kind of misinterpreted that question a little bit, because actually the third card is an important lesson we must learn in this lifetime. So I'm going to get to the third one in a minute, but what is your purpose together in this lifetime? With the Three of Swords, it could be to heal each other's sense of rejection, so that each party feels accepted within the relationship, or just accepted in general. Also, it could be about detachment, because the Three of Swords can be about cutting something off very suddenly, cleanly, actually cleanly more than anything. And how we tend to allow relationships to linger and past their prime and things like that. Okay, the third card. An important lesson we must learn in this lifetime. Ten of Cups. This is the marriage card. I do have some cards here that really are like couples cards. Marriage commitment, okay? Commitment and family harmony. And if you or the other party is a bit phobic when it comes to commitment, I have a feeling that this may even be with both parties. Virgo is the sign of the hermit, so I think Virgo people are capable of being alone. And this doesn't mean being a loner, that you don't like people at all. It just might mean that you are willing and able to live a life of, keeping to yourself and being self sustaining. You're an earth sign, so you're kind of like one of those, you can be very hardworking and practical, and you may keep yourself productive regardless if you're in a relationship. Sometimes maybe a relationship is a bit of, I don't know, a distraction for you in some ways. So being able to commit to a relationship and take on the responsibilities of that relationship may be something that both of you have to learn. How you can grow from this lesson. The King of Wands is a very confident and autonomous individual. I think you grow when you're in a relationship, but you still retain your individuality. I think that's where the growth is. And not just for you, for anybody. Some people who are commitment phobic fear that they will lose their individuality if they're in a relationship. And that's not necessarily true, but it's hard to convince people of that because obviously, you know, we associate getting married and being, you know, involved with somebody as kind of signing over your independence, and that doesn't have to be that way. How our lives look after completing this lesson. Well, this is interesting. The Eight of Cups, this is walking away from what no longer serves you, but also a spiritual quest. So, I mean, is there a possibility that you and this person will be separated in this lifetime, or if you already are, that this is how it is? I'll tell you, I really feel a sense of this being the case because, and I don't mean maybe this is not forever. It's that separation is part of it. I did read somewhere in this, on this site, they were quoting about that very fact. It's funny, it seems like the times when I don't read the definition is when the times I need it the most. Why is that? Why does the universe do that to us? So anyway, you have to, and I think that Three of Swords at the centerpiece here is kind of alluding to that as well, of being able to cut off something. Now, as people have told me, and even as this site has mentioned, there can be, these relationships can be fraught with drama. I do think it's important to really, you know, think to yourself if this relationship is truly qualifies as a twin flames relationship, or it's just like a drama-filled relationship, because sometimes I wonder if people are just kind of slapping that label on it because they want it to be something good and spiritual and meant to be, regardless of some of the challenging aspects to it. And, you know, I don't have any fault for people wanting to make their relationship something seeming good. However, if it is good, then it's good. If it's not, it's not, you know. That's just how it is. So this may be one or both of you who needs to kind of go because you have this longing for some kind of spiritual journey. Now, this could be the two of you together doing this, for sure, you know. I never thought of it that way, but it doesn't have to necessarily be that you separate from this person, I suppose. Okay. Something we can do to strengthen our bond. Hubba hubba. Get busy. You know, yes, I'm kind of being a little bit childish and mentioning sex, the sex act, or sex acts. But it's not just about this. I mean, this is like a little bit too obvious. It's also about emotional intimacy. So 8th house, you know, 8th house can be sex, kind of spiritual sex, but it can also be emotional intimacy, the bearing of your soul, not just bearing of your body. And Virgo, you are a sign that it's not that you're secretive like a Scorpio person would be. It's more that you are matter of fact. You are analytical. Your mind is working all the time. You're always assessing something. I can say this because I have the moon in Virgo. It's like always like critiquing something in your mind or evaluating it. Let's put it that way so it sounds more positive. What do I think about this? What do I think about that? And in relationships, people who are Virgos tend to look at things more in a tangible sort of way. Like, you know, how can I help my partner? You know, how can, you know, we do, you know, what we got to do, but not necessarily anything that is very intense with emotions. You know, earth signs and air signs to me are the most attached in that regard. Okay, so the 7th one, now that was more on the mundane level, interestingly enough. So, I mean, you know, maybe it is giving you permission to knock boots. I wanted to say something that would just be cringy, like from the 80s or something, you know. Okay, the next one is a way we can heighten our vibration. So this is on the higher level. And this is the Judgment card. The Judgment card is, I think it's scorpionic because it is Pluto energy, if I'm not mistaken. And so it is a card of transformation, rebirth. So with that 8 of Cups, you know, I'm sensing changing one's life in a big way. And the Judgment card is a card of cause and effect. So that's why, you know, when we talk about somebody rendering a judgment, they are deciding on how to evaluate something that somebody has done that we might consider negative. But in this case, judgment can mean that things are coming to that place of right before completion. You know, the World card is the last card. This is the second to the last card. And also, discernment is, to me, the higher form of judgment. Okay, judgment, when people say don't judge, they feel like somebody is personally attacking them and like kind of like criticizing their choices, for instance. But in a very personal way of saying you should have done this, you should have done that. And discernment is about deciding whether or not something is right for you or not. But it's not about tearing it down. And things like that. So for both of you, this is interesting for you, Virgo, because you may tend to have like a judgmental streak in you as it is. Being a Virgo, critical, perfectionistic, okay? And that is kind of the mundane version of it. Because when you look at something at a higher level, that which seems like a curse may be a blessing. Something that may seem like it's an imperfection, something that wasn't supposed to happen, can turn out to be really a good thing. So that's why it's foolish for us to make this judgment call. You know, there's that expression that something is negative or bad, when later on you might say, man, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I mean, I'm thinking in my personal life, there was something in my life that for years I thought was an injustice, that I had been wronged. And yes, on the mundane level, I had been. But I would have never been pushed out of that situation had I not experienced it. And I wouldn't have, you know, even after 10 years, I probably would have still thought about it in terms of, you know, the injustice. It took me a long time to work through it. And really, it's not even, let's face it, a lot of this isn't about working through something, working on yourself. It's just, and it's not even about time passing and then all of a sudden it's okay. Time passing, time being put a distance between you and something negative can soften the blow, but you can still have that negative residual effect. When you truly don't feel resentment about something, it's because you have realized that it was a blessing in disguise. Okay, here's something outside, so I'm gonna try to get these done. I don't wanna have to do this in two parts or whatever. Okay, the next position is something my twin is mirroring for me, so they're doing it and showing you how you can be, maybe how you are not yet like this. Ace of Swords, seeing things as they really are, cutting through illusion. Well, that's interesting because I don't associate you with being deluded or anything like that. Actually, your opposite sign, Pisces, is connected to that. So what I would say is that any sign can have elements that lead to this, and usually we look to Neptune aspects, like Mercury square Neptune or opposing Neptune, or the moon doing so. Moon can affect your thoughts too, because this is kind of like your perception. And so this person, maybe even very bluntly, and it feels harsh to you. So especially if they have a fire in them, they can kind of like, you know, cut to the chase, like a Sag, which forms a square to Virgo. Just tell you in very unadorned, truthful terms what time it is, and help you to stop kind of living or creating a false narrative or an alternative narrative. And the last card is what I can do to help my twin reach their highest potential. King of Cups is a mature water sign individual. So you're not a water energy, but you may embody the emotional maturity that you can model for that other person to show them how they can do it. An example would be, even as an earth sign, like I said, you tend not to be emotional. People who are fire signs and water signs in particular tend to take things to the heart. Fire signs are more impersonal, but they can just, that can make them have tempers, and they can just like have a little bit of a tantrum sometimes. I've heard that term grand mal hissy fit, and that sounds about right. But even like whatever this is like you caring deeply for somebody and showing that you're caring. The other person may be rough around the edges or just not in touch with their feelings and have a hard time articulating them, and so they are reactive, or they shut down emotionally and they don't talk. So by you, Virgos tend to be verbal because you are ruled by Mercury. So you can kind of give these types the modeling of, talking about your feelings even, that's better than shutting down for sure. And then feeling them, because obviously with the King of Cups, this is a water energy. So it is about feeling your feelings, not just analyzing them, but being in control of them. As the king, I think of that person who has reached the apex of maturity, so they have the control of themselves. They are not just triggered in a very sudden sort of a way, but they have that ability to kind of pause before they act or speak about something that has been brought up, and they feel that sense of perhaps triggering, or they don't feel that anymore, but perhaps in the past they did when they were younger, when they were more vulnerable, they felt more vulnerable, and now they have that sense of being able to kind of know how to react, and also how to perceive something. I would just boil it down to mastery of emotions. Okay, that's what I have for you, Virgo. I hope that you got something from this. If you'd like a personal reading, the link to my website is below. The name of my website is rainandmoonastrology.com. Take care. Bye.